Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host. With the entry of the 9th generation consoles, particularly the PS5, any other console that came before it would most likely be forgotten. One exception to this rule is the PS4. The PS4s simply sold so many units that it were declared a major hub for modern day gaming. The PS4 Pro even raises the bar further. It might still be a more viable purchase decision than the PS5, since the majority of the games, even today, don't possess the additional high-resolution elements that a 9th generation console boasts. Besides, even if you have the console and the games to go with it, there's a good chance you'll fall short of an 8K resolution display. While bearing in mind that we've only just arrived at this turning point in graphic ability and console performance, and that there are still a lot of titles to come before our standards of gaming are raised, let's take a look at the well-designed, underrated gems that we can enjoy on the PS4 today. Mad Max 2015. Kicking off our list of the underrated but graphically insane, we have Mad Max. Expanding on the popular franchise, this title will put you in the shoes of lone warrior Max Rokitansky on your journey through the desert to the Plains of Silence. Along the way, Max is ambushed by the war boys of Gastown, who leave him for dead in the desert after stealing his car, the Interceptor. He runs into Chum Bucket, a mechanic who's working on the Magnum Opus, the greatest vehicle that the Wastelands will ever witness. Chum Bucket views Max as a divine savior and wants him to be the driver behind the wheel of his best creation. But Max must first gather the necessary parts and help Chum Bucket finish his masterpiece. While the game falls into the badly rated category due to uneven voice acting that causes the story to lose conviction, the narrative also loses points because of its slow-paced build-up. In spite of all its shortcomings, Mad Max features an absolutely gorgeous sandbox world. It excels at placing players in an inhospitable environment, and every area feels like a new, unique experience. The vehicular mechanics and combat run the show on this one. The Order, 1886-2015. For those who felt like the Mad Max environment was too crass, this next title places players back to London in an alternate steampunk Victorian era. Playing as Sir Galahad of the Round Table, you traverse linear paths, shoot monsters and clear obstacles. The Round Table is the order that the title name speaks of, and it works to protect London from the half-breed beasts who possess animalistic strength. Additionally, the Order also deals with an ongoing anti-government uprising. While the Order was the bestseller of its release week in Ireland and the UK, it comes under heavy fire attributable to its lack of in-game interactivity. The cover-based shooting and the quick-time event mechanics feel wonky and unnatural. Where the Order excels, however, is telling its story and doing it artistically. The style is perfect and complements the plot. The level of attention paid to showcasing the exquisite world and the intricate work done on its convincing characters takes this title a long way. All in all, the Order makes for an immersive experience in this altered history narrative and redeems itself while leaving you speechless. Infamous Second Son, 2014. 7 years after Cole's sacrifice in Infamous 2, our new Conduit protagonist, Delsin Rowe, is a vandal. When an argument over vandalism with his elder brother is interrupted by the crash of a prisoner convoy, Delsin comes into contact with Conduit. This is where the players unlock Delsin's first power and encounter the DUP. The DUP is an anti-conduit organization that would go on to leave Delsin's people dead with concrete shards in their bodies. All hope is lost unless the DUP leader, Augustine, who is also a conduit, spares them. Our hero soon discovers that he can absorb the powers of other conduits by touching them and sets out for Seattle on his quest to absorb Augustine's power and free his people. The choices you make determine Delsin's story, and you could have him be either a hero or a villain. While some are of the opinion that the story lacked a certain complexity and that the game's combat mechanics were too simple, everyone acknowledges the stunning portrayal of Seattle and the world's vivid colors. Even when gamers discuss how it falls short in terms of character development and exploring various relationships, not a single person will deny having enjoyed the game, how the single combat is rather addictive, and how the powers keep the combat feeling fresh. This one isn't really underrated if you ask those who came looking for a superhero game. Most of its bad reviews are a result of people comparing it to non-superhero games and holding it to a certain standard of realism that we witness in games today. While this isn't really fair, this one was surely a great title to showcase the PS4's next-gen graphic ability. The Surge, 2017. Combining the elements of the Dark Souls series and Bloodborne, The Surge adds its own unique approach wherein you're equipped with an exoskeleton in the fight against cyborg types, which makes for a fun and challenging RPG. It's set in a dystopian, technologically advanced future where the protagonist, Warren, wakes up to drones attacking him after a catastrophic event following his bizarre implant surgery. Right off the bat, you jump into action, fighting malfunctioning robots, co-workers with their own unique exoskeletons, and evil AI. Almost almost everyone's an enemy, and Creo, the company you were supposed to start working for in your efforts to save the world, has turned into a deadly industrial complex. The Surge delivers nearly 50 hours of gameplay if you aim for 100% completion, but it doesn't always tell its story well. Players tend to be too busy fighting hordes of enemies while the narrative unfolds through dialogue in the back. Additionally, the story doesn't pick up during its first 15 hours. The upside is that you'll never be bored, and the Surge will keep you engaged in various tasks and quests. The world, hazardous as it may be, is fun to explore. It's an artistic approach to environmental storytelling, and you're surely going to have to ponder what you witness in your hauntingly beautiful surroundings, followed by contemplating their significance to the narrative setting. The weapons and inventory system do wonders for the gameplay. Days Gone, 2019. Drawing inspiration from The Walking Dead, Sons of Anarchy, and World War Z, Days Gone is a third-person zombie apocalypse title. The story is centered around outlaw biker Deacon St. John, and starts with his attempt to find a safe haven amid a zombie virus outbreak, along with his wife, Sarah, and friend, Boozer. While they manage to get to an evacuation helicopter with room for two, Boozer's injuries cause Deacon to ask Sarah to board while he nurses Boozer back to health before reuniting with her. Sarah is assumed to be dead after the shelter she was put in was attacked by zombies. You play as Deacon, who's now a gun for hire, and it's been 2 years since you parted ways with Sarah. The open world is set in Oregon, and the team at Ben's studio spent quite some time designing it, along with its various enemy types. The studio even added 80 more members to the original dev team, which comprised 50. The way Days Gone intertwines multiple narratives and lets you switch between them at various points always keeps you engaged and fresh. This tale of redemption packs an entertaining world design that encourages exploration by throwing obstacles in your path. The sparse world, however, while true to the themes of isolation and apocalypse, makes certain areas seem empty, and not a lot of attention is paid to environmental storytelling. Drive Club, 2014. First of the racing genres on this list, Drive Club places you behind the wheel in some of the most powerful cars the world has ever seen. It offers several race modes and places great emphasis on the club system. This entails letting players team up and form their own clubs as they drive around the globe, complete challenges, and earn fame. Players contribute to their clubs by representing them in races and events, and the fame earned by a player influences the players as well as the club's level. Higher levels allow you to unlock cooler vehicles and cosmetics. The challenge system is well thought out, and the driving isn't difficult to get the hang of. Needless to say, this left it open to criticism by racing fanatics on account of the driving not being realistic enough. To top that off, the AI drivers are quite aggressive, and with the vehicle's steady on-road grip and handling, this is more annoying than challenging. This title's redeeming grace is the world that allows you to speed through various well-designed, diverse tracks all over the globe. The sound design and attention to fine-tuning race environments are commendable. Aside from the tracks and their environments, the vehicle design takes the experience a long way. The online multiplayer side is where this game turns into an exhilarating joyride. Killzone Shadowfall, 2013. Killzone's sixth game was marked as a launch title for the PS4 and boldly altered the series formula. Guerrilla and Sony went out of their way to welcome the cutting-edge PS4. Following the events from Killzone 3 30 years ago, in a fresh generation of characters, you play Shadow Marshal Lucas Kellen in the first person to investigate a grave concern amid the Hellblade Vector War. Before Until Dawn and Horizon Zero Dawn, the Decima game engine was first used in developing this absolute stunner formula-breaking sequel. For a title with a critically acclaimed multiplayer mode, Shadowfall's campaign fell short in some places and could have packed a lot more into it. The characters could have been better depicted as well. In spite of all these things, our sixth bold Killzone title makes the gameplay more open-ended and showcases a new world of gadgets and arms. It overcomes the irregular pacing with the narrative's key moments, and you might just catch yourself thinking. Even in its most negative, spiteful reviews, you're sure to find a line nodding ahead at the gorgeous graphics. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, 2015. True to the Assassin's Creed way, the majority of Syndicate also plays out in fictional history, and this one takes you back to 1868 London. During the Industrial Revolution, players get to play as two twin assassins, Jacob and Evie Fry. The twins are traveling from Crawley to London, where the Brotherhood's numbers have diminished. The way of life that they've known demands that they start their own gang, which they go on to call the Rooks, and overthrow the Templars who control London. Within a week of release, Syndicate was second to the franchise's worst seller, Rogue. While the fluid combat seemed to be an improvement from Unity's clunky fighting, it was all a bit too repetitive in the 19-ish hours of its campaign. However, the new map and the introduction of equipment like the rope launcher actually feel like the game is set in Victorian London during the Industrial Revolution. Additionally, the city's design and the lightheartedness of the story interested quite a few. It's not just the city of London, the story is beautifully structured too. The well-written and well-designed characters in these settings deliver quality gameplay that engulfs you. Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments, 2014. This video game adaptation of cases that the fictional detective solves has you playing as the man himself from a first-person perspective. You must work your way around crime scenes, gather evidence and draw conclusions on a mechanic known as the deduction board. What makes this six-murder mystery title unique is that the outcome of your efforts depends on how you put two and two together. The deductions will become clear once you put the information together. The conclusions you come to depend on the deductions you make. It's not that hard to go wrong in this investigation procedure, and your mistakes result in failure. Lastly, you also get to choose whether to condemn or absolve criminals, and the results of these decisions shape further gameplay. All 6 cases in the game were designed with a total of 6 to 10 different endings per case, which gives this title a hefty replay value. While it's this exact deduction mechanic that sucks the realism out, given that most evidence you gather is circumstantial, it isn't all that inconceivable either. You do play the role of Sherlock Holmes, an old-time genius detective. After all, the world design and characters, having been designed on Unreal Engine 3, look marvelous and are deeply rendered to capture even the most subtle expressions on a suspect's face. Lords of the Fallen, 2014. This next third-person action RPG presents you with a lot of challenging fights and areas to power through. You embark on your quest to put an end to a demon invasion orchestrated by Edith, a mighty but dethroned god who used to rule over humans. Harkin, who's the protagonist that you control in this one, is a bit of a blank canvas that you can paint to suit your style of play. Harkin is actually a criminal who wears his sins on his face, like runes burned into his skin. When you're released from prison by a monk, your goal is made clear to you, and the journey begins. Lords of the Fallen is underappreciated because it doesn't amaze players in the most obvious ways. If you let go of preconceived notions surrounding what the game could be, you'll find yourself getting more invested by the minute. The story plays in a non-linear format and takes a more zone-based approach. The hack and slash bits are quite fun. Harkin's character story and design, along with the visuals that exploration brings to your attention, are often the objects of praise when this title is addressed. Shadow Warrior 2, 2016. Shadow Warrior's sequel, like the first game, places you in the role of Lo Wang, a modern-day ninja assassin. This offbeat first-person shooter has players make use of magic, swords, and a broad variety of weapons in the fight against demons. The plot mainly revolves around Wang trying to rescue the daughter of a Yakuza leader who was kidnapped so that she could be experimented on. While you make it there in time, you have your hands tied with fighting Zilla Corps thugs, and the daughter, Kamiko, is injected with a strange substance. This is where the rescue operation turns into a quest to save Kamiko's soul. While there remain a few difficult to overlook flaws, like the silly jokes that a great number of people find annoying, or the hollow character acting and repetitive levels, Shadow Warrior 2 still packs a lot of fun in its gameplay, irrespective of game mode. It delivers a thrilling experience while packing well-executed dynamics and trippy, enticing visuals that could rival Doom's. The graphics really shine in the bizarre environments that retain elements of Japanese decorum. Detroit: Become Human, 2018. Up next, we have Quantic Dream's interactive drama, Detroit: Become Human. This one takes its players to a dystopian future set in Detroit, 2038. Androids have become a vital aspect of daily life, and the narrative is weaved into the experiences of 3 such androids. Jericho is a wrecked ship and the home of deviant rogue androids. Jericho is what brings our 3 protagonists together. Marcus, as the caretaker deviant who became an autonomous sentient, fights for android rights, whereas Connor is the detective looking into Marcus's group. Connor starts showing signs of deviance during his investigation, and Kara is a housekeeper who deviates from her programming by saving a girl from her abusive father and turns to Jericho for help. The narratives of these 3 have been creatively put together in this choice-influenced drama, and the impact of the choice system is applaudable. The game was sometimes overlooked because of the presence of Quantic Dream's other detective titles. The lack of subtlety in exploring the infamous Ship of Theseus conundrum and the lack of depth surrounding the various forms of abuse in Kara's narrative are often criticized. The motion capturing is the highlight and engrosses players. The game's captivating visuals, along with the characters' convincingly designed expressions, make this title a must-play for those who have a taste for the thought-provoking. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, 2017. If there's a list of underrated games for the PS4, Senua's Sacrifice will almost definitely be mentioned in it. Following Senua, the protagonist warrior from Orkney, Hellblade tells the story of a woman who returns from exile only to find out that she must now deal with the loss of her sacrificed lover. She decides to do him the service of saving his soul from the dark Norse gods. Unfortunately, this independent title falls short when it comes to combat because it's rather plain, and a few of the puzzles seem unnecessary. However, However, as far as independent games go, the production value and graphics are of superior quality. Throughout the journey, this fast-paced yet emotionally riveting story touches upon themes like mental health issues, trauma, and the sheer strength of one's spirit. The immersive combat goes well with the game's breathtaking atmosphere. The interpretation of Norse mythology is grim yet beautiful. Players are sure to feel the dread in its various environments, and Senua's hallucinations and delusions only add to the chaos as you confront her inner demons along the way. What Remains of Edith Finch, 2017. This one plays out like a storytelling walking sim. It follows a 17-year-old girl by the name of Edith Finch who returns to her family home after 7 long years. As you explore this house, a narration from Edith's journal tells the story of the tragic house and each of its deceased members. Edith appears to be the lone survivor of the Finch family, and this interconnected anthology distinctly blurs the lines in terms of how credible each depicted narrative is. As mentioned before, this one's essentially a walking simulator and limits in-game interactivity at the cost of its storytelling. While it's a great achievement as far as indie games go, What Remains of Edith Finch had a lot more room left to facilitate the game it could have been. The stories this one tells through the Finch house and its various rooms achieve wonders with their design and writing. Each room has a lot to say about different family members. It plays with the conventional rules of such a narrative, and this emotional roller coaster will have you in tears and smiling all at once. Concrete Genie, 2019. When the small town of Denska is abandoned after an oil spill, a mysterious force emerges from negative emotions and is called the Darkness. When a teen sketchbook artist by the name of Ash is driven into a lighthouse by his bullies, he encounters Luna. Luna happens to be one of his drawings, who grants him a magical brush with the power to bring to life anything Ash draws. Ash further uses the brush in drawing the genies, who help him clear various zones and overcome bullies throughout the game. Though rejected over the easy combat and its generally low difficulty level, there wasn't a single critic who could say that something as visually compelling as Concrete Genie already existed. As you explore and restore fragments of the architecturally intriguing game world, it takes on colors that breathe the very life into it. The Tim Burton-esque character designs and the animation showcased on their faces add character to this story. What catches the eye of players here is the way this game explores the story's themes, like bullying, redemption, and friendship. Dishonored 2, 2016. Set 15 years after the events of the first game, Dishonored 2 stars a grown-up Emily Coldwin with her royal protector, Corvo Atano, still faithfully by her side as a father figure. The plot opens with Emily still on the throne and the city of Dunwall flourishing under her reign. A dark shadow is soon cast when Emily's wicked aunt overthrows her by accusing Corvo and the young empress of conspiring against opposing factions in a series of murders committed by the mysterious Crown Killer. You can choose to play as either Emily or Corvo in rescuing the one you don't choose and uncovering the political conspiracy behind the Crown Killer murders. Dishonored 2 takes everything that you loved from the first game and expands on it. At most, the negative reviews are limited to Corvo's side of the gameplay feeling similar to that of the first game and the lack of a new game plus mode, along with the inability to replay chapters individually. The level design here is genius and showcases some of Arcane's best work as you sneak around enemies in a variety of settings. The mechanics are more refined, and Emily's gameplay opens you up to a fresh set of powers. If you play Dishonored 2, you're guaranteed to take a break from slashing enemies mid-air and stop to take in the sensual scenery of this visual journey. Neo, 2017. Neo takes on a dark, fictional depiction of the Sengoku period and the fictional story of real-life English navigator William Adams in his action-packed samurai adventures in Japan. This blend of history and fantasy with its Dark Souls elements focuses more on its gameplay, with the story serving as a binding agent that adds color. You're tasked with obtaining Amrita, a magical stone scattered all over Japan. As you serve the English government amid the Japanese, you navigate a selection of menu-given locations and fight yokai monsters. While there are a couple of faults in the inventory management system and the comical depiction of Adams wasn't welcomed heartily, Neo instills elements of Japanese folklore in an aesthetically pleasing manner. This kind of setting makes up for the story's shortcomings, and the intricately layered, adaptive combat here is both engaging and challenging. The gritty, charming identity that Neo brings to the table is only enriched by letting players choose between the action and movie graphics modes. Sniper Elite 4, 2014. This third-person tactical shooter serves as an immediate sequel to all that unfolded in the third game. You play as a Spec Ops executive, Carl Fairburn, and fight on the side of the Italian resistance to aid them in breaking free from the chains of fascism. The plot thickens when a grave new threat emerges, and mission failure would entail the Ally efforts in Europe being nipped at their buds before the movement gains momentum. Retaining the Sniper Elite game's World War II settings and environments, this fourth addition to the series showcases captivating imagery from the Italian peninsula. Even game, with its silly enemies and their short attention spans, it's easy to forget character developments and its somewhat misleading minimap. You can't help but notice how hauntingly rich the surroundings depicted are, whether you're traveling coastal towns in the Mediterranean region or making your way through daunting Nazi bases. The game will engulf you entirely. Honorable mentions here include the innovation of its point-and-shoot mechanics and the X-ray kill cam system that activates itself when you fire. Mafia 3, 2016. Hangar 13's third Mafia game stars Vietnam veteran Lincoln Clay as its protagonist and tells a tale of vengeance. You come back to New Bordeaux after serving the country to the adoptive family that Lincoln calls home. Though the plan was to leave for California and start a new life, you stay back in order to help Lincoln's father, Sammy Robinson, repay his debt to a mob boss. When this mob leader betrays you upon payment and kills your family, leaving you for dead, you seek the help of certain dangerous individuals in plotting your revenge. The story here plays out like a classic mob film, which is a double-edged sword as far as reception is concerned. While a great many adore the thrilling mob drama, there are also a few who criticize the game for being rigid in adhering to the mob drama formula while lacking new combat elements. Mafia 3 excels at portraying strong characters with amazing style, voice acting, and direction. New Bordeaux makes for the perfect home for all the chaos that this story packs. It feels like the city's alive with chatter, and the world at your disposal is larger than both preceding titles combined. Onrush, 2018. This unique take on arcade racing and vehicular combat does away with the traditional goal of being the first one to cross a finish line. Instead, it takes the form of a team-based off-roader. Players can choose from a variety of off-road vehicles, and the general goal is to wreck enemy vehicles to score points for your team. Overdrive mode has you boosting your vehicle to score points and accumulate a specified number of points before the enemy team. Countdown mode is a race against time that allows you to add seconds to the clock by driving through checkpoints. If your team runs out, the enemy team wins a point. You score points in lockdown mode by holding your vehicle steady within a moving zone along the track. Lastly, the switch mode levels up your vehicle with every respawn and has you wreck enemy vehicles till they've all exhausted 3 lives. Being a little out there, Onrush didn't hit the mark as far as sales were concerned, and a lot of the dev team's members were laid off. While there's a good amount that needs fixing, like the rank system, Onrush is stupid fun and can get extremely competitive. Amid the chaos, Onrush has you haul your vehicle through scenery that remains untouched and uncorrupted. The wilderness is expansive, and its beautiful maps are equally deadly. You might want to avoid taking your eyes off the road. Ruiner, 2017. Run by the mega corporation that players come to know as Heaven, Bangkok City is a massive urban landscape. The year is 2091, and this isometric perspective shooter has you play the role of Puppy, a silent protagonist. Right off the bat, your goal is to assassinate the founder of Heaven Core. However, the hacker projecting her voice in your head tells you that your brother's been kidnapped, and your vendetta against the boss turns into a race to save our loved one. Underrated due to its repetitive level design and improper storytelling, Ruiner still manages to be a bit more than the sum of its parts. The combat mechanics are precise, and the game demands them on account of its fast-paced action. If you're feeling a thirst for some challenging violence, Ruiner will deliver with bold visuals to go with it. The dark, disturbing world comes to life in this cyberpunk twin stick. This surprisingly gorgeous piece appeals through its sound design and graphics while constantly making you feel like things are about to go wrong. The nightscapes and bizarre industrial environments work strongly to make you feel like all hope is lost in the wake of struggle. No Man's Sky, 2016. No Man's Sky can loosely be described as a space exploration version of Minecraft. The story isn't all that significant in this one, and the game features no dialogue. Rather, it involves interacting with characters through text boxes. You wake up as the traveler who crashed on a remote planet in a galaxy with over 18 quintillion planets. You must gather resources to repair your ship before you can travel to another galaxy. However, something about this vast planetary system compels you to venture to its center. The gameplay encompasses exploring, surviving, fighting, trading, and building your own base. No Man's Sky features a procedurally generated universe on steroids that's widely regarded as a great achievement in game development. Even in spite of its 18.6 quintillion unique planets, the gameplay does feel a little repetitive at times because while there are a lot of planets, there's only so much you can do. However, this doesn't go to say that No Man's Sky is anything short of a fun space adventure with the ability to satisfy those who find themselves wondering about the worlds beyond ours. The fine detailing that's gone into the game's planets with their unique flora and fauna is sure to leave you stunned as you mine them for resources. Gravity Rush 2, 2017. Taking on a more episodic format in comparison to the prequel, you still play the role of Kat, and Gravity Rush 2 eases you into all its tweaks and upgrades over the first game. Once the prologue is over and key characters have been introduced, the story picks up and introduces you to Jirga Paralau, the floating city. Kat, along with friends Raven and Sid, finds herself stranded on this vibrant island as plagued with conflict. The first hour of gameplay before the real game is revealed is mainly why this one's underrated. Everything else about it is awesome. The sky is the limit with this title, both literally and figuratively. The developers have managed to massively improve and expand on everything you loved about the sequel. Flying improved significantly thanks to the new world featured, and the mechanics actually feel like she's flying rather than falling. You can now control Kat's movements on a deeper level, which makes the fights far more interesting. While it takes time to open up to players and reveal what lies under the hood, this reveal is extremely rewarding. The lively environments and the game's comic-style story are brought to life with vibrant colors. Echo, 2017. Echo is the work of an independent game studio by the name of Ultra. This sci-fi stealth action game tells the story of The Palace and has you control N, a genetically modified woman who wakes up from cryogenic stasis after over 100 years. Accompanying you in your quest to uncover the secrets of this labyrinth is London, your argumentative AI companion. In giving in to N's strange feelings of familiarity regarding The Palace, you open yourself up to what can only be described as an out-of-body experience and exploring this bizarre, self-replicating environment. Being an independent title, Echo isn't a game that most people have heard of, even in spite of having won 4 awards at Spill Prize in 2018. Aside from winning the Game of the Year title, it also won Best Technical Achievement, Best Visual Design, and Best Sound. While it was also criticized over how the story tends to lose focus and the lack of layering in mechanics, Ultra's first and last game is among the smartest and most visually pleasing stealth shooters of all time, and shows you how one is the greatest threat to oneself. The aesthetics are gorgeous and complement the way its AI creates challenges for players. Inside, 2016. Inside is a 2.5D puzzle platformer that follows an unnamed boy protagonist as you venture into bizarre environments, each composed mainly of one color tone. The color settings are used to highlight the protagonist in certain parts of each stage. The boy you play as can swim, walk, run, and climb, in addition to interacting with each of the game level's available objects that serve to help you solve the puzzle. Inside is among those beautifully unique titles that you can enjoy more if you play it without learning much about the gameplay. What's more, there are no instructions on screen or through dialogue, and you need to pick up on how to play this one through trial and error. While some criticize this aspect, it actually serves to display the huge variety of animations available to depict the boy's end. Naturally, you tend to die a lot, but the game doesn't let this hinder your experience with its short load times and abundant checkpoints. Through its bold color choices and well-designed atmospheres, this one can surely make you feel haunted and terrified while you trot about furiously. Marvelous verdict. The entry of the PS4 meant a great many things for the gaming community. It was among those few consoles that gave way to the next generation of games with their breathtaking, unrealistically real graphics. While all these charming games are underrated, one mustn't forget that the PS4 has been on the market for over 10 years and holds its own, even when put up there against its successors. These have all been among our marvelous selection of underrated stunners, and we sincerely hope you enjoyed learning about them. Stay tuned for more, and do subscribe to keep up with the lore and development of all your favorite games.